Hello, this is Alan, welcoming you to the 2082nd edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper. Dateline is 26th of January 2017. The readers this week are myself, Sonia, Jenny and Roz, with Phillip on the controls. The editor was Lynda, and the production and distribution team is Keith, Phillip, Joan and Jean. Our title music is, as you might know, Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prie, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breuer, and is performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. The local stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, of course, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The event's information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include Stop Them, MP wants police to crack down on boy racers, Families' fears over missing teenager, Chilling message as racists target family, and Tribute to convoy heroes. Before the news, we have one or two special items and notices. But first, the sunrise and sunset times for tomorrow, the 27th of January, are 7:47 and 16:38. The local news here notices is Enfield Vision will be holding their forum meeting on Monday the 6th of February at the Park Avenue Disability Centre, 65C Park Avenue, Bushhill Park, from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. The speaker will be Pamela Burke from the Enfield Carers Centre. And we've got one other thing to say at this moment. We would like to thank one of our listeners, Mrs. Taylor, who wrote in to tell us how much she enjoyed our Christmas edition, which, as well as the local news, had stories, plays and poems, all selected by Ali and the rest of Team C. They're really chuffed that you enjoyed the edition. Thanks very much for writing. We love receiving feedback. Please keep in touch. We are keen to hear your views on what our new title music should sound like, so please contact us. So, as I said, do get in touch to share your own news and any special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. And now Sonia will read the first item of local news.
Stop them. MP wants police to crack down on reckless boy racers. Concerned residents are demanding urgent action by police to stop illegal high-speed, Fast and Furious style car races on the streets of the borough. The plea comes in the aftermath of a two-car smash in the early hours of Sunday morning in Green Lane's Palmer's Green. Cops, aware of the notorious problem, caught 25 people speeding in the same stretch of Palmer's Green that evening as part of a covert operation. One reckless driver was doing more than 100 miles an hour, a police spokesman said on Twitter. The A10 was shut northbound after the accident, with residents taking to Facebook to say it was inevitable given the speeding on the road. Hal Haynes, a sound engineer who lives in Cranley Gardens off Bourne Hill, Palmer's Green, told the Advertiser, "You can hear them racing in the early hours of the morning. The police need to be out there checking in the early hours of the morning, but they haven't the staff. It's a real problem. My nephew was here staying from Nottingham, and he said it's a London phenomenon. You just don't get people racing at these dangerous speeds like this elsewhere." People living near the A10 and on the roads leading from Palmer's Green to Southgate say their nights are being ruined by boy and girl racers tearing up and down, revving their engines in customised cars. But it's not just the noise they are worried about. It's also the fear of the inevitable deaths that arise from speeding cars. Paul Mandel, spokesman for the Fox Lane and District Residents Association, said that he and several other committee members help police carry out checks with laser guns that record drivers' speeds. It's not a new problem, he said. We go out and help catch people with laser guns. It records their speeds. Some of them are unbelievable, but it's not any good really. There's no enforcement. It just acts as a warning. As well as racing along the A10, scores of drivers have been descending on Ravenside Retail Park in Edmonton, where petrolheads in souped-up cars race at dangerously high speeds and do donuts, spinning their cars around at breakneck speeds. MP for Enfield Southgate, David Burrows, echoed residents' pleas. He said, "I expect the police to throw the full force of the law at these so-called boy racers, who should realise they are putting lives at risk by their reckless actions. They need to be caught and convicted, and then spend time in prison, as well as listening to the families of victims who have lost loved ones due to dangerous drivers." The Advertiser approached the police for a comment, but did not receive a response at the time of going to press. The picture shows two badly damaged cars in Green Lanes, Palmer's Green, one with the front body badly crushed and the other one with the side crumpled, the front offside wheel broken and the bonnet opened and damaged.
Family's fears over missing teenager. The family of a missing vulnerable teenager who is feared to have fled to London to meet a man she met online say they are absolutely devastated. Anthony Davidson, 49, travelled to Enfield last week to pass around photos of his daughter Molly. Mr. Davidson believes the 19-year-old, who has learning difficulties and epilepsy, boarded a coach to London's Victoria bus station on Monday, January the 16th, to meet a man she had been secretly chatting to online. Mr. Davison told the Nottingham Post he found clues from telephone numbers, tracing them to addresses in Edmonton and Enfield. Mr. Davison believes his daughter started talking to this man 6 months ago on Facebook. He said it looks initially that it's been through Facebook. This guy has got 7 Facebook accounts under different names, but he has now deleted them. Molly had £40 on her and a month's worth of medicine. Once that's gone, I don't know what she's going to do. We are absolutely devastated. We can't put it into words. You just don't think it will happen to you. Talking directly to Molly, he said, "Whatever has happened in your life, it doesn't matter what it is. We want you back home safe and sound. You are not in any trouble whatsoever." Molly's phone was last traced in the Paddington area by police, but it has been turned off since then. She is described as slim, around 5'9" tall, with shoulder-length dark hair. Molly was wearing black jeans, a cream jumper with a crisscross pattern on the back, and a black zip-up jacket when she was last seen. She was also wearing either black Converse or white Adidas trainers. She was carrying a brown hold-all type bag and a red handbag. Anyone who has seen Molly or knows of her whereabouts is urged to call the Metropolitan Police on 101, quoting reference 17 MIS 002487.
Chilling message as racists target family. Masked white supremacists chanted Ku Klux Klan outside a Turkish family's home before leaving a chilling message on their car windscreen. The family, who live in Edmonton, woke up to the letters KKK scratched on their windscreen on Tuesday morning. Shocked Haringey councillor Pere Ahmet tweeted a picture of the graffiti saying, "This is what a friend of mine woke up to." Last night, a mob who covered their faces were chanting KKK outside their house. This happened in Enfield. The Metropolitan Police told the Enfield Independent on January the 23rd, police received a report of alleged racially motivated graffiti written in frost on the side of a car, and inquiries into the incident were then carried out. Any further evidence that comes to light or any further incidents will definitely be investigated.
A tribute to convoy heroes. A memorial service to honour the bravery of men and women from the borough who risked their lives to deliver vital supplies to Russia's Red Army during World War II was held outside Enfield Civic Centre last Friday. The Arctic convoy veterans were remembered by representatives of the Royal Navy, Merchant Navy, Enfield branches of the Royal British Legion and cadet forces. They all gathered around the granite memorial, which was funded by the survivors in 2003. The veterans embarked on perilous voyages to deliver weapons, medical supplies, food and blankets to the Eastern Front. The Reverend Stuart Owen, Vicar of All Saints Church in Edmonton, led the service with a prayer, and the last post was sounded, followed by 2-minute silence. Anne Cable, Deputy Lieutenant of Enfield, led the laying of the wreaths. The Mayor of Enfield, Bernadette Lepage, who was among those at the service, said, "The memorial outside the Civic Centre is a wonderful, permanent reminder of the sacrifice these men and women made when they crossed some of the most dangerous seas on earth, where one fall into such waters would result in a rapid death. We owe them a huge debt of gratitude."
London Mayor Sadiq Khan issued a toxic air alert under his new air quality warning system this week. It followed the Mayor's warnings sent out last week after some of the capital's busiest main roads were blighted by high pollution. He said, "London's dirty air is a public health emergency. We will continue to use all the technology at our disposal to inform Londoners about levels of air pollution in their neighbourhoods. People with asthma may find they need to use their reliever inhaler more often. Older people should also reduce physical exertion. For the general public, the high pollution advice is that anyone experiencing discomfort, such as sore eyes, a cough, or sore throat, should consider reducing activity, particularly outdoors. The new alert system, introduced last summer, shows pollution warnings on electronic signs by bus stops, tube stations, the roadside, and on social media.
A staunch campaigner for tougher sentences for knife-related crime has welcomed a week-long operation launched on Monday by Scotland Yard. Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows praised police at the launch of Phase 7 of Operation Sceptre, the London-wide initiative targeting knife crime, which will see stop and searches and weapon sweeps targeted in hotspot locations. Mr. Burrows said, "We need zero tolerance on knives, and we need to do all we can to rid the menace of knives from our streets." However, as much as I support and have campaigned for more robust policing and tougher sentences for knife crime, I recognise that we can't arrest our way out of the problem. We need more preventative work with families and schools to change a youth culture that thinks it's safe to carry a knife. The Met Police Blitz, which runs until Sunday, includes weapon sweeps, intelligence-led stop and search, promoting knife bins and undertaking operations to tackle those wanted in connection with knife-related and violent crime. Operation Sceptre seeks to target not only those who carry and use knives, but also the supply, access and importation of weapons. There is a knife surrender bin, the only one in the borough, at Edmonton Methodist Church in 4 Street, where people can post knives anonymously and help get them off the streets. Operation Sceptre was originally launched by the Met in July 2015, aimed at reducing knife crime and the number of families affected by knife crime across the whole of London. A police spokesman said, "Tackling knife crime is a priority for the Met, and activity takes place year-round. In addition, we have also carried out 6 weeks of concerted activity across London under the banner of Operation Sceptre. In total, since Operation Sceptre was launched, we have conducted 5,791 weapon sweeps and 700 test purchase operations in shops that sell knives. A total of 4,565 stop and searches were conducted during those 6 weeks, resulting in 793 arrests from stop and search alone. The combined 6 previous phases of the operation have resulted in a total of 2,294 arrests, 473 of which were for possession of a knife or weapon, and the recovery and removal of 1,435 weapons from the streets of London. The launch was designed to coincide with legislation introduced in 2015, resulting in those who are convicted of carrying a knife for the second time facing a mandatory custodial sentence. The spokesman added that to report anyone carrying or using knives, people should contact police on 101 or call Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111, but in an emergency they should always dial 999.
Toytown could be an apt nickname for Enfield. Some of the world's biggest selling toys were once made in the borough, including Matchbox cars and the board game Scrabble. And that long history of toy manufacture dating back to the turn of the last century is to be celebrated in a forthcoming exhibition at Enfield Museum in the Dugdale Centre in London Road. Terrific Toys Made and Played in Enfield is due to open in May, but before then, the museum has put out an appeal for vintage toys and board games to exhibit alongside its own collection. It is inviting residents who would be willing to lend them their treasured old toys to a special open night at the museum between 6 and 9 p.m. on Thursday, February the 9th. The borough is steeped in history where toy making is concerned, said Jan Metcalf, the museum officer and exhibition curator. Lesney, the firm which produced millions of Matchbox die-cast cars, was founded in Enfield by Palmer's Green residents Les and Rodney Smith, who started off their business after the war in a cellar of condemned pub in Union Row, Edmonton. And just as well known were J.W. Spears, who from 1932 until it closed in 1994 produced millions of different board games from its factory in Green Street, Brimsdown, including Scrabble. On a much smaller scale was Elgin, based in Bush Hill Park, which made doll's house furniture in the 1920s and 1930s, she said. The museum is keen to hear from residents with toy collections or toys or games by local manufacturers, and it is also interested in pictures of old toys in the borough or any home movie footage or photos which feature toys from the past being played. From the earliest Matchbox cars to original 1960s Cindy or Barbie dolls, we want to try and cover them all, she said. The oldest toys we possess in our collection are a stick and a hoop and a top, but we also have a very early board game about suffragettes circa 1910, with the objective for players to avoid ending up in jail. This article is accompanied by a picture of a blue vintage Matchbox toy parked by its box, and it's number 65.
People aged over 50 who are looking for work can take advantage of a new service launched in Enfield. Job seekers can now take part in the Work Routes 50 Plus, which gives people an employment advisor to provide career guidance and help with CV building and interview practice skills. The scheme has already helped 150,000 people find jobs. Unfortunately, I don't have a phone number for it, but I'm sure that you'll be able to find it online or via Enfield Council. It's called Work Routes, ROUTES 50 plus.
Patients and staff will be stubbing out their cigarettes as they go smoke-free at the Mental Health Trust, which covers Barnet, Enfield and Haringey. Smoking has been banned on the premises and in the grounds of the Barnet, Enfield and Haringey Mental Health NHS Trust as part of the initiative which was launched on Tuesday last week, promoting long-term health. All inpatients referred to the hospitals for treatment to stop smoking will be offered a range of nicotine replacement therapy within 30 minutes of admission, but can use electronic cigarette alternatives. Other replacements offered will include nicotine patches, lozenges and sprays to combat cravings. Inpatient admission offers an invaluable opportunity to monitor and manage a person's physical health, said Sean Edwards, manager on Sussex Ward at Chase Farm Hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield. So, by BEH going smoke-free, we can hopefully enable patients to quit or reduce smoking by offering advice, support and alternatives to improve their health and well-being. It will be a challenge, but the benefits are significant, he added. Patients in the community will also be supported to quit smoking and reduce their cigarette intake. People who come to us as inpatients are sometimes dependent on nicotine when they are admitted, and they feel a strong craving for cigarettes, said Jonathan Bindman, medical director at BEH. But this is counterproductive to treatment and to their long-term health. Smoking is a major cause of premature death in service users.
A woman who won trips to the US and Australia is writing a book and starting a charity inspired by her travels. Nicola Sharp-Jeffs, 39, beat 1,000 hopefuls to win the Winston Churchill Travelling Fellowship, which sponsors people to carry out research abroad. Nicola's research focuses on economic abuse, a form of domestic abuse where people use money, bank accounts and other financial assets to control and blackmail their victims. On her return home, she is going part-time so she can set up a charity dedicated to helping economic abuse victims. She has plans to publish the book. She said, "It really does show that by learning from other countries, we can help change lives here at home." And there is a photo of Nicola next to a bust of Winston Churchill.
Fly tippers are to be slapped with greater fines after Enfield Council doubled its penalty charge rate. The previous rate stood at £200. However, those littering Enfield streets will now face fines of £400. Cabinet Member for Environment, Councillor Daniel Anderson, said, "The council spends £4.5 million a year keeping the borough clean, and residents are absolutely sick and tired of putting up with people who think it is okay to dump all manner of rubbish on our streets. It is not, and it is time for those responsible to pay that price."
An Enfield school has been nationally recognised for its work with parents and carers. Honeylands Primary School in Lovell Road has been awarded the prestigious Leading Parent Partnership Award. The accolade is a quality benchmark and celebrates schools which have an exceptional relationship with parents and guardians and which engage them in a partnership. Increased parental involvement in school life has been shown to have benefits in improving pupils' progress, as well as punctuality, behaviour and attendance. Honeylands had to undergo a self-evaluation against the award framework before an assessment was conducted to see if it came up to scratch. A good example of our commitment to parental engagement and community cohesion is our flagship parent learning programme, Honeylands Parent College said the school's parents support advisor and LPPA coordinator Mario Lopez Goycochea. He said, "Most of the courses are staff-run and based in our nursery building. This enables the school to engage parents in their children's learning at a very early stage. To date, Honeylands Parent College has proved to be a highly successful strategy to engage parents and carers, including those from different groups in school and at home," he added. LPPA assessor Jenny Townsend said the school had raised the bar and was now operating at an outstanding level of parent partnership.
A police constable has been acquitted of handling stolen goods after buying bikes on Gumtree. PC Thomas Keating, 32, attached to the Met's Specialist Crime and Operations Command, was alleged to have bought the bikes in June and July last year. He was found not guilty at Blackfriars Crown Court last Tuesday. PC Keating had been charged, along with Mustafa Dahir, 25, of Somerset Close, Tottenham, who was accused of 2 counts of theft and 2 counts of fraud. Lukman Lamudni, 29, of Bury Greenwood Green, was charged with 1 count of handling stolen goods. The court heard Dahir stole the 2 bikes from a Brompton Bike Hire Limited docking station in Ealing Broadway on June the 19th, 2015. Lamudni advertised one of the bikes for sale on Gumtree on June the 22nd, and PC Keating responded to the advert and bought the bike the following day. PC Keating, unaware the bike was stolen, then sold it on after advertising it on Gumtree. On July the 1st, the second stolen bike was put up for sale by Dahir on Gumtree, and PC Keating bought it the next day before advertising it on Gumtree shortly afterwards. PC Keating was arrested while trying to sell the bike outside New Southgate Station on July the 9th. Lamudni had pleaded guilty at an earlier hearing to 1 count of handling stolen goods. Dahir changed his plea to guilty of the 2 thefts and was acquitted of the 2 fraud charges. Now that criminal proceedings have concluded, a misconduct review will take place. Dahir and Lamudni will be sentenced on February the 17th.
A church without a building has celebrated its 10th birthday with a service led by the Bishop of Islington, the Right Reverend Rick Thorpe. Grace Church Highlands was set up a decade ago to help serve the community of Highlands Village. The village has been created in World's End Lane, Winchmore Hill, after the Victorian Highlands Hospital was demolished and accommodation for more than 3,000 built in its place. Reverend Andy Wadsworth, the minister for Grace Church, was given the task of providing spiritual provision for the new community, but without a church to meet in. "We meet each Sunday morning at Highlands School," he said. "We set up from 10 a.m, get all the chairs in and out, set up a PA system, and the children's groups meet in adjoining rooms. It's hard in a sense because we don't have a church for people to call into, But we've managed to overcome that and have a flourishing group, the Grace Church family, of well over 100 worshippers. As well as a weekly service, the Grace Church hosts an English language support group for people who feel isolated from life because they don't speak the language. The church also runs a youth football team and community cafe. Mr. Wadsworth added, "We were thrilled that Bishop Brick was able to join us to celebrate and give thanks for the first 10 years in the life of our church. We have a mission and heart to continue to serve our local community."
There are 70 restaurants ignoring basic health and safety rules in Enfield, but under a new crackdown by Enfield Council, these diners, which have scored 0 to 1 in food hygiene by the Food Standards Agency, will be given tougher fines. Of the restaurants, 5 scored 0 and 60 scored 1. Councillor Daniel Anderson, Cabinet Member for the Environment, has pledged to take restaurants who do not act to court. He wants to make it completely clear for low-scoring places to display their green scores on the doors, stickers on their shop front, he said. If places do not start to get their act together, we will shut them down, prosecute them and name and shame them. They need to understand the severity of the situation. Those with good hygiene ratings have theirs displayed on the windows, so those with bad ratings should also have them. Restaurants that fall below a certain hygiene standard during their first inspection will be rated again until they improve. They will be given advice and training on how to improve their standards, but if they fail to clean up, more severe actions are enforced. Councillor Anderson added, "There are some restaurants that are in the process of being prosecuted. We need to show there is zero tolerance for this sort of activity and we need to clamp down." He added, "We have a huge number of excellent, well-run and hygienic food outlets in Enfield, but sadly, there are a number which are letting the rest of the borough down, so we're taking action. The absolute minimum we expect from people who run food outlets is that they have clean premises and the right measures in place so that their customers' health is ensured. We don't think that's unrealistic, but unfortunately, judging from what our food safety officers have seen in recent months, a number of food outlets in the borough evidently couldn't care less about the welfare of their customers. So we've decided enough is enough and we're stepping up our enforcement activities. We're giving restaurants and other food establishments fair warning that we'll be naming and shaming those who we inspect and are deemed to have unacceptable hygiene standards. Our residents need to be assured that they can eat out safely without any fear of food poisoning. Now, here are a few of the restaurants with a 0 rating for you to avoid, listeners. There's Charcoal Grill, Church Street, Enfield, 0. Dee's West Indies Bakery, Hertford Road, Enfield, 0. Grimaldi Place Limited, Hoe Lane, Enfield, 0. And the Premier Cafe Enfield, Enterprise Centre in Enfield, 0.
And now, the Colne Ranger column. The author writes, "Thankfully, a CV is not needed in education, and mine would have to be updated dramatically as it was last used about 20 years ago. Rewriting it now, I would put reading the Cornish news under hobbies. There is no other regional or local news that comes close to the wackiness and mundanity of some of the stories, which are either to the far right of extreme or so inane as to leave you wondering why they wasted the ink. Last year, a Christmas tree was stolen. Falmouth police were quoted as describing it as 6 feet tall, with lots of branches and prickly bits. It is unclear as to whether the crime was solved or if the perpetrators went on to commit further crimes. Further spelled F-I-R-T-H-E-R. Another favourite was the headline, "Sue Marshall escapes serious injury when 2 cows crash through the roof in Penzance." This raises a series of questions, Who is Sue Marshall? Should we know her? And more importantly, why did she have a couple of milkers on her roof? Suffice it to say, Sue Marshall, despite having a nice view of the stars through the hole in her bedroom roof, must have spent the winter Frisian her bits off. Frisian, F-R-I-E-S-I-A-N. Malcolm Rosieveroth Pengagan, which sounds like a line of dialogue taken from Game of Thrones, achieved local fame after being hospitalised when his selfie stick was struck by lightning. Sadly, the picture didn't come out as it was dark and he didn't use a flash. 999 calls in the West Country are also a little Doc Martin. They include a cry for help as a DVD player was not working, an escaped budgie, and a man asking if he would be arrested for urinating in his garden after locking himself out of the house. The eccentricity of the Cornish is endearing. Age 67, Brian Gibson became frustrated at the number of blocked municipal drains. When the council refused to respond, he introduced a gnome called the Drain Spotter and sent pictures of said gnome standing next to numerous puddles in order to highlight the problem. There was recently a short-sighted horse that repeatedly vandalised a car whilst believing it was a mate. Without photographic evidence, the story cannot be confirmed, and I have suspicions the reporter thought of it off the hoof. In summary, I find the story heartwarming, and am pleased with recent signs that other local newspapers are following suit. Let's have more suspected panther sightings in the high street, and people with their heads stuck down portable toilets. It may not be highbrow, but it's always comforting to read about someone less fortunate than you in the community.
Neighbours say nothing has been done to improve hazardous and gridlocked traffic on what used to be a quiet cul-de-sac. People living in Autumn Close, Enfield, say parked cars blocked firefighters from getting to an emergency last July, and a woman was knocked down by a car 2 months later. Although nobody was injured in either incident, residents say they met with Enfield Council last June to combat the issue, and it agreed to put measures in place for the new school year. But nothing has been done, and neighbours say the dangerous problem will only get worse until action is taken. They claim the problem is aggravated by school-run traffic from Russet House, Carterhatch Infant School and Carterhatch Junior School. Resident Margaret Canham said, "My car has been hit so many times where the coaches have to drive on the pavements where the children walk to get past each other. There have been fights, arguments, and we have even been threatened by parents. The cul-de-sac is now the site of a block of flats, an antenatal clinic, a specialist school and a primary school, which has been extended, as well as 20 houses." Margaret, 70, believes the traffic problems have worsened since Russet House opened in 2012 and says the council has made a bit of a boo-boo by agreeing to open it. She also claims soiled nappies have been left outside homes, and once, when confronting a driver who nearly backed into a child when turning around, the driver's response was, "So what?" The schools are not legally obliged to do anything about the traffic, but Russet House provides transport for its 112 pupils and has a private car park. Both Carterhatch Infant School and Carterhatch Junior School have reminded parents about the issue in school newsletters, as well as using a crossing inspector. Enfield Council has been contacted.
Hard-up families face being plunged into poverty as the financial lifeline of benefits on which they depend on are cut as part of the Tory government's reform of welfare, Edmonton's Labour MP Kate Ossimer has warned. She was commenting after the borough ranked second highest in London for the number of families receiving child and working tax credits. A total of 20,800 families in the borough rely on the benefits to top up their low incomes, according to an analysis of inland revenue data carried out by GMB Trade Union. On average, Enfield families received £154 a week and £8,011 annually, according to the union. With the rollout of universal credit, as the government looks to slash £3.1 billion from the social security budget, Miss Ossamer warned of a £30 a week cut from the assistance families currently receive. The support given to families by tax credit can often be the difference between a family just about managing and being plunged into poverty, she said. It is left to the taxpayers to foot the bill for the working families who are chronically underpaid. This includes the 14,000 families and 27,000 children in Edmonton who receive this support. The Conservatives claim to be building a country that works for everyone. However, those words will ring hollow to the thousands of working families who are set to see their already stagnated incomes cut even further.
Government proposals to slash funding for community pharmacists across the country will have a devastating effect, warns Edmonton MP Kate Ossamer. She says that under the new NHS package that will slash funding for chemists by 40%, Edmonton will see 3/4 of pharmacies close. Although the government predicts that up to 25% of pharmacies in England could close due to the cuts, it is proposing an access scheme to ensure geographically important chemists are not forced to shut their doors. But the access scheme, which has been rolled out to help pharmacies remain open if they meet certain criteria based on geography, distance from each other, population age as well, mortality rates, and other government-led stipulations, will have little effect in the borough, says Miss Ossamer. And in Edmonton's case, none of the chemists is eligible for the scheme. She said, in the face of unprecedented demands on health and social care services, the importance of local pharmacies is greater than ever. The government has now confirmed that budgets for community pharmacies will be reduced and cut dramatically. These plans are short-sighted, and I believe the reductions in funding will hit the deprived, elderly, and long-term sick of Edmonton the hardest. The Department of Health said that the government's proposals were designed to save money. Community pharmacies currently receive an establishment payment as long as they dispense more than a certain number of prescriptions. The payment ranges from just over £23,000 a year to £25,100, depending on how many prescriptions are doled out. From the 1st of April, it will be reduced by 40%, and the top payment will plummet from £2,092 a month to £1,255.
An ultimately comfortable 2-0 win at home to basement side Grays Athletic on Saturday saw Enfield Town climb up into the Ryman Premier Division's playoffs places. Town initially struggled to break down stubborn opponents and rarely looked like scoring prior to the interval. But they eventually made their extra quality count, and second-half goals from Bobby Devine and Billy Crook gave them maximum points. And, with Dulwich Hamlet having their match postponed, the win saw Town climb above them into 5th place in the table. It was a pleasing result in the end, said manager Bradley Quinton. It was tough to break Grays down, and I think they will give teams some problems during the rest of the season. I wasn't happy with the first half performance, and I sat the lads down at half-time and encouraged them. and we were much better in the second half. We've only lost 2 of our last 22 matches in the league, and that is promotion contending form. Hopefully we'll finish strongly and won't just miss out on the playoffs like we have done in the last couple of years. After a slow start to the match, Town gradually began to get the upper hand, and Crook blazed over from just outside the penalty before Harry Ottaway somehow failed to turn in Mickey Parcell's low cross inside the 6-yard box with the goal at his mercy. However, Grays squandered an equally good opportunity moments later when Jamie Maskelly's cross was headed over by a completely unmarked Kieran Bishop from little more than 10 yards out. Parcell cleared a Kouwabene Osei shot off the line and in the early stages of the second half, but Town became increasingly dominant after this, and they finally made the breakthrough on 57 minutes. Devine latched onto a long ball forward down the left and rounded keeper Amadou Tangara before evading 2 covering defenders and calmly slotting the ball into the net. Devine and Ottaway both went close before the lead was doubled 14 minutes later when Parcell's free kick was flicked on by Ottaway into the path of Crook, who emphatically fired home from inside the box. With Town now in complete control, Devine was thwarted by a good save from Tangara before the hosts were given a golden opportunity to add gloss to their victory when they were awarded a late penalty for Luke Wilson's foul on Durnall Winter. The young striker picked himself up to take the spot kick, but his effort lacked power and Tangara was able to make a comfortable save.
Saracens director of rugby, Mark McCall, is relishing the challenge of taking on Glasgow in the quarter-finals of the European Champions Cup. Already assured of their place in the knockout stages of the competition for a 6th successive year, Sarries made sure of a home tie in the last 8 by securing a hard-fought 10-3 victory against Toulon. Sarries' reward for winning Pool 3 is a clash against a Glasgow side who reached the quarter-finals as one of the best runners-up, courtesy of a stunning 43-0 triumph away to Leicester. And McCall is not underestimating the challenge that will be posed by the Scottish outfit. Glasgow Warriors are a team we have a huge respect for, he said. Under Gregor Townsend, they've been building as a side and growing to this point as a squad, and in this year's competition they have produced some fantastic performances against Racing 92 and Leicester, 2 sides who have real European pedigree. There's a really positive energy in their squad and they have a team packed full of internationals, so it'll be a huge test for us, but one that we're really looking forward to. The match will take place over the first weekend of April, and Sarries are hoping to play the tie at Allianz Park, but under the rules of the competition, they will need to temporarily increase the capacity of the ground to 15,000 in order for this to happen. We'd be delighted to play the game at Allianz Park, McCall added. In our experience, European quarter-finals are always tight and testing occasions, so to have our home support behind us is a real positive. Our fans have really rallied behind the team this season when we've needed their support, and I'm sure they'll be looking forward to this game as much as we are. A depleted Sarries side produced a hugely resilient performance to see off star-studded Toulon with Chris Ashton, who is joining the French team in the summer, scoring the only try of the match. Owen Farrell converted and added a penalty, but the hosts were also indebted to fine try-saving tackles from Michael Rhodes and Will Skelton in the closing stages as they survived fierce pressure to seal the win.
A father from Winchmore Hill, who lost his daughter to an aggressive brain tumour 6 years ago, has launched a £1 million campaign to fund a year's worth of vital research into the deadly disease. David Taylor, who lives in Winchgate, set up the charity In Sue's Name. in memory of his daughter, Sue Blasota, who was just 42 when she died from the brain tumour glioblastoma multiforme. The campaign will be launched officially next month to raise much-needed funds for national charity Brain Tumours Research, the Centre of Excellence at Queen Mary's University of London. Cash has already been raised to fund 6 days of research at a cost of £2,740 per day, and has been represented by the hanging of 6 plaques on a wall of hope at the university. I still remember my complete shock and disbelief when I discovered that brain tumours kill more children and adults under the age of 40 than any other cancer, said Mr. Taylor. Yet just 1% of the national spend on cancer research has been allocated to this devastating disease. This is unacceptable, he added. Sue lived in Palmer's Green and had 2 teenage children. In Sue's name has formed a link with brain tumour research, and this partnership will help us in our mission to help people fight against this devastating disease, said Sue Farrington-Smith, Chief Executive of Brain Tumour Research. Ultimately, it will lead to better outcomes for patients, from improved awareness for early diagnosis to the development of a more effective, personalised treatments and targeted drugs. If you wish to make a donation, do visit www.totalgiving.co.uk/donate/in Sue's name.
Enfield Ignatians under 16 and 17 side were in fine form as they eased to a 49-10 win over Hampstead at Donkey Lane. The Blue and Golds have lost just once this season and rarely looked like being troubled as they ran in 9 tries in a dominant display. Special praise was spared for Marcus Cornwall as he returned to the fold as a second-half substitute to score the game's penultimate try. Coach Jack Wilson said, "These games are all about squad rotation, and I'm delighted that Marcus was able to get on the score sheet." Ignatians came out of the blocks flying, and Cormac Sears ran in an early brace to put them in the ascendancy. The home side further highlighted their superiority with tries from Ansel Schwartz, Finlay Mackay and Kian Linan, taking them to a 27-7 half-time lead. A host of changes at the break did little to disrupt Enfield's progress, and both Farhad Fayez and Simon Mulandama touched down. After Cornwall had added his name to the score sheet, Lawrence Liu completed the rout.
Music lover Mayor Bernadette Lepage is drumming up support for a concert showcasing Enfield's musical talent. She is asking people to buy tickets for the Enfield Sounds Great live concert, a music extravaganza designed to blow your mind and raise money for the Mayor's charity of the same name. Mrs. Lepage said, "It will be brilliant to experience Enfield Sounds Great live, and I'm very grateful for the world-famous Chicken Shed for hosting this event. This concert will showcase a wide range of local musical talent and raise money for good causes in Enfield, so there are plenty of good reasons to come along and enjoy this fabulous event." In the summer, the Mayor encouraged residents to donate any unwanted instruments, which were then refurbished and passed on to people who gave them a new lease of life. When she became Mayor, Mrs. Lepage said music was her thing and launched Enfield Sounds Great, a year-long musical festival dedicated to raising funds to support various musical causes in the borough. She added, "Music is magical and wonderful, and we have so many great musicians in Enfield." The concert will take place at the Chicken Shed Theatre on February the 5th at 7 p.m. Tickets can be bought from Chicken Shed in Chase Side, Southgate, or by calling the box office on 020 8292 9222. They can also be bought on the door. Enfield Council staff and staff from the Royal Free London NHS Foundation Trust will be given the discounted price of £7.
Enfield 1893 was thrashed 5-0 by leaders Barking in their Essex Senior League match. The hosts got off to a fast start and opened the scoring after just 10 minutes. James Pegram found space and fired past goalkeeper Russell Harley. It took just 5 minutes for Barking to double their lead when Max Waters neatly rounded Harley to score. There was no let-up, and Enfield fell further behind from a close-range header. A miserable first half for the visitors ended with a 4th goal conceded when the lively Pegram slotted in his 2nd of the match. The closest Enfield came to getting on the score sheet was in the second half, when a free kick by Chris Lockwood was parried by the home goalkeeper. But Barking were only denied a 5th goal when a header from Jarell Hamilton was cleared off the line. The home side rounded off the scoring just after the hour mark when Harley's punched clearance fell to Jimmy Oshin and he fired into the corner of the net.
And here's some more local football news. Cockfosters were left without a match over the weekend as their scheduled home clash against Sun Sports in the Spartan Premier Division fell victim to a frozen pitch. The informed side, who lie 3rd in the table, will now be hoping to extend their 12-match unbeaten record in the league when they visit Hoddesdon Town. It was a shame the match was called off, but it's just one of those things, said manager Dean Barker. Only one game was played in our division, and we are well placed in terms of fixtures. Hoddesdon are one of the form teams at the moment and will be a big test for us. We're all looking forward very much to the match.
Do you need a handyman, one who has been vetted? The Enfield Independent and Wellbeing Service now offers a handyman for jobs around the home, such as supply and fitting of key safes, fitting net and curtain rails, roller, vertical and Venetian blinds, assembling flat pack furniture, putting up mirrors and pictures, minor repairs, installing grab rails, stair rails and banisters, as well as a variety of general gardening tasks such as lawn mowing, hedge trimming, fencing, paving and jet washing. To find out more and obtain a quote, contact Martin Thomas on 07903 970 265 or 020 8379 6959 for a quote.
We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thanks for listening. So from the team of myself, Alan, Jenny, Ros, Sonia and Phillip on the controls, it's
Goodbye.
Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet. Put the memory stick into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. And don't forget, you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 020 8805 6578. And coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.